What if I told you that the cup of coffee sitting on your counter right now, the one you've been drinking your whole life, could either be quietly protecting your blood sugar or silently pushing you toward diabetes? Not a supplement, not a prescription, not some exotic superfood you've never heard of. Just coffee. Here's the thing most people over 60 don't realize. Coffee isn't the problem. It's never been the problem. The problem is the when, the how, and the what you're putting in it. And today I'm going to show you exactly what the latest science says, because this isn't just my opinion. Researchers from some of the world's top medical institutions have spent years studying the relationship between coffee and blood sugar in older adults specifically. The findings are remarkable, and almost nobody is talking about them the right way. I'm Dr. Franklin, and if you're here for the first time, this channel is about one thing: giving you the real, clear, science-backed information. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 3 coffee habits that are unknowingly spiking your glucose every single day. And then I'm going to show you the exact coffee routine that can help your body regulate blood sugar more effectively starting tomorrow morning. Stay with me until the end, because the last habit I share, the one about a specific 20-minute window before your meals, completely changed how I counsel my patients. It's that powerful. The big picture, why this matters for seniors. Before we get into the coffee specifics, I need you to understand something that your doctor may not have said to you directly. After age 60, your body's ability to manage blood sugar changes. Not because you did anything wrong, it's biology. Here's what happens. As we age, 2 key things shift in our metabolism. First, our muscle mass gradually decreases, and muscle is one of the primary tissues that absorbs glucose from the bloodstream. Less muscle means your body has fewer places to send that sugar after a meal. Second, the beta cells in your pancreas, the cells responsible for producing insulin, become less efficient over time. They're slower to respond, and when your pancreas is slow to the party, glucose lingers in your blood longer than it should. This is why the American Diabetes Association reports that adults over 65 are the fastest growing group receiving new diabetes diagnosis. 1 in 4 Americans over 65 has some form of diabetes, and an estimated half of all seniors have pre-diabetes, elevated blood sugar that hasn't yet crossed the clinical threshold but is heading there. The quiet part of this story, most of those people have no idea. There are no dramatic symptoms at first. Just a little more fatigue than you used to feel, a bit more thirst, some brain fog after lunch, and slowly, silently, the damage accumulates. Now, why am I telling you all this before we even talk about coffee? Because coffee, when used correctly, interacts directly with both of those age-related changes I just described. The compounds in coffee can help compensate for slowing insulin response. They can help muscles absorb glucose more efficiently, and they can slow the absorption of sugar from the food you eat. But, and this is critical only if you drink it the right way, if you're adding sugar to it, drinking it on an empty stomach, or having it at the wrong time of day, you are cancelling out every single one of those benefits, and in some cases, actively making your blood sugar worse. But before we dive in, quick question for the comments section. What city or country are you watching from right now? I read every single comment, and I love knowing who is in this community with me. Let's break this down. The science behind coffee and blood sugar. Let me introduce you to 2 compounds most people have never heard of, even though they're drinking them every morning. The first is chlorogenic acid. Think of chlorogenic acid as your intestinal traffic cop. When you eat carbohydrates, bread, rice, fruit, anything starchy, those carbs break down into glucose and flood your small intestine, where they're absorbed into the blood. Normally this happens fast. That's what causes those sharp post-meal spikes. Chlorogenic acid physically slows this absorption down. It inhibits the enzyme called alpha-glucosidase, which is responsible for breaking down complex carbohydrates into simple sugars. Slow the enzyme, slow the flood. Your blood sugar rises more gradually, which is much easier for your aging pancreas to manage. A landmark review published in the journal Food and Function analysed 28 separate clinical studies and found that chlorogenic acid from coffee consistently reduced post-meal glucose spikes and improved insulin sensitivity, particularly in adults with impaired glucose regulation. That means seniors with prediabetes or early diabetes saw the greatest benefit. The second compound is trigonelline. This one is less talked about, but equally fascinating. Trigonelline has been shown in several studies to activate receptors in your liver that help clear glucose from the blood more efficiently. Your liver plays a huge role in blood sugar control. It can either release stored glucose into the bloodstream or absorb excess glucose and store it safely. Trigonelline nudges the liver toward the second option. A 2022 study published in the European Journal of Nutrition found that trigonelline supplementation significantly improved fasting glucose levels in adults with metabolic syndrome, a condition extremely common in people over 60. And here's something remarkable about coffee that most people overlook. Decaffeinated coffee contains just as much chlorogenic acid and trigonelline as regular coffee. This is crucial for seniors who are sensitive to caffeine or have been told by their doctor to reduce their intake. The blood sugar benefits of coffee have almost nothing to do with caffeine. They're driven by these other compounds entirely. Now, I said almost because caffeine does play a role, just not always a good one. And that leads us directly to the mistakes. The 3 mistakes seniors make with coffee. I want to tell you about a patient I'll call Walter, 74 years old, a retired engineer, sharp as a tack, and completely baffled by his blood sugar numbers. Walter had read about coffee's benefits online. He was proud of his 3-cup-a-day habit. He walked every morning. He'd cut back on bread. By all accounts, he was doing everything right. And yet, his fasting glucose was stuck at 142. His A1C, the 3-month blood sugar average, had climbed to 7.3%. His doctor was talking about increasing his medication. When I sat down with Walter and went through his day hour by hour, I found 3 things, 3 habits that were undermining everything else he was doing. And when I tell you what they were, I want you to think honestly about whether any of them sound familiar. Mistake number 1, the first thing in the morning cup. Walter's alarm went off at 6:15 a.m. By 6:20, he had the coffee maker running. By 6:25, he was drinking his first cup, and before he'd eaten a single thing. This feels perfectly normal. Millions of people do it. But here's what's actually happening in your body at that moment. From roughly 4 a.m. to 8:03 a.m., your body is in something called the dawn phenomenon. Your adrenal glands are naturally releasing cortisol, your wake-up hormone, which signals your liver to dump stored glucose into the bloodstream. This is your body's way of giving you energy to start the day. It happens whether you eat or not. Your fasting blood sugar is already elevated in the early morning hours. This is completely normal. Now, what does caffeine do? It stimulates those same adrenal glands and amplifies the cortisol response, which tells the liver to release even more glucose. A study published in the British Journal of Nutrition tracked continuous glucose monitors in healthy adults and found that drinking caffeinated coffee first thing in the morning before eating increased blood glucose by an average of 29 milligrams per deciliter compared to mornings when they didn't drink coffee. In people with insulin resistance, the spike was even higher. You haven't eaten a single bite of food, your blood sugar is already elevated from the dawn phenomenon, and then you pour caffeine on top of it, amplifying the effect further. This is why so many seniors are confused when their fasting glucose is high in the morning, despite eating carefully the night before. It's not last night's dinner, it's this morning's coffee drunk at the wrong time on an empty stomach. The fix is simple, and I'll give it to you shortly. Before we continue, tell me your name and where you're watching from. I read every comment, and I'd love to know who I'm helping today. Mistake number 2, the sweet additions. Walter's second mistake, 1 heaping teaspoon of sugar in each cup, plus on the weekends, a splash of flavoured creamer. I know 1 teaspoon doesn't sound like much, but consider this. 1 teaspoon of sugar is about 4 g of pure glucose. It hits your bloodstream fast because there's no fiber, no fat, no protein to slow it down. In a coffee cup, it's basically dissolved glucose delivered directly to your intestine. And here's the cruel irony. You're drinking coffee specifically because of chlorogenic acid's ability to slow glucose absorption. Then you drop pure sugar directly into the same liquid. The chlorogenic acid slows down the digestion of complex carbs. It doesn't neutralize straight glucose. You've just spiked yourself. A major analysis published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2024 examined coffee consumption patterns in over 200,000 adults and found that coffee without any additives was significantly associated with lower diabetes risk. But this protective effect was substantially diminished when coffee contained added sugar. Sweetened coffee, the study concluded, was metabolically closer to a sugary beverage than to plain coffee. What about artificial sweeteners? This is where it gets interesting and a little uncomfortable. A growing body of research suggests that common artificial sweeteners like sucralose and aspartame can alter the gut microbiome, the community of bacteria in your intestines that plays a direct role in how your body handles glucose. A 2022 study published in Cell found that even short-term consumption of sucralose and saccharin caused measurable disruptions in the gut microbiome and impaired glucose responses in some participants. The research isn't fully settled, but there's enough evidence here that I tell my patients, if you want the full blood sugar benefit of your coffee, drink it plain. If that feels unbearable right now, try a small amount of pure stevia, the only sweetener that currently shows a neutral to slightly beneficial effect on gut bacteria and glucose metabolism. If you're still here with me and finding this helpful, take a moment to type 2 in the comments. It lets me know you're watching and getting value from this. Mistake number 3, the late afternoon or evening cup. Walter's third mistake was one I see constantly. He had a second cup at 3 while I ppm and sometimes a third at 700 pm. I've been drinking coffee all my life. He told me, it doesn't even affect my sleep anymore. Walter was wrong about that. And I say that kindly because most people who think caffeine doesn't affect their sleep anymore are actually sleeping poorly. They just can't remember what good sleep feels like. Here's the biology. Caffeine's half-life in your body is between 5 and 7 hours. But here's what most people don't know. As we age, our liver enzymes that metabolize caffeine become less efficient. The half-life for many adults over 65 is closer to 8 or 9 hours. That 31 p.m. coffee, a meaningful amount of caffeine, is still circulating in your brain at midnight. Why does this matter for blood sugar? Because the most critical time for glucose regulation is during deep slow-wave sleep. This is when your body replenishes insulin sensitivity, repairs insulin receptors on your cells, and resets your metabolic hormones. Research published in Diabetes Care found that even a single night of poor sleep reduced insulin sensitivity the following day by up to 25%. Poor sleep raises cortisol, which raises glucose. It triggers hunger for high-carb foods the next day. It reduces the motivation to move. Sleep deprivation and blood sugar dysregulation feed each other in a vicious cycle that most seniors are unknowingly caught in, partly because of a late afternoon coffee habit that feels harmless. When I explained all 3 of these mistakes to Walter, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "So the coffee wasn't helping me. It was working against me the whole time." "Not entirely," I told him. "Coffee is still a powerful metabolic ally, but only when it's working with your biology, not against it." And I showed him exactly how to do that. 8 weeks later, his fasting glucose dropped from 142 to 118. His A1C went from 7.3% to 6.8%. His doctor described the improvement as remarkable without any change in medication. Let me show you what we changed. Before I share the exact coffee routine, if this is useful to you so far, do me a small favor and hit the like button. It helps this information reach more seniors who could genuinely benefit from it. And let me know in the comments, do you currently drink your coffee black or with something added? I read every comment, and I'd love to know where you're starting from. All right, let's talk about what to do. This isn't a rigid protocol, it's a flexible framework based on your body's natural daily rhythms. There are 3 windows where coffee has been shown to work most powerfully for blood sugar control in older adults. Window number 1, the delayed morning cup, 45 to 90 minutes after waking. Step 1, when you wake up, do not reach for coffee. Drink a full glass of water first. Let your cortisol peak naturally and begin its gradual decline, which happens around 30 to 60 minutes after waking. Then eat something, specifically something with protein. This doesn't need to be elaborate. A soft-boiled egg, plain Greek yogurt, a small piece of cheese, even a handful of unsalted nuts. Why protein specifically? When you eat protein before caffeine, several things happen. First, amino acids from protein stimulate the release of glucagon like peptide 1, GLP-1, a hormone that enhances insulin's effectiveness and slows gastric emptying, meaning food moves through your digestive system more slowly. Second, protein blunts the cortisol response to caffeine, reducing the liver's glucose dump. Third, protein alone has almost zero impact on blood sugar, so you're providing your body fuel without a glucose spike. After your protein, then drink your plain black coffee. Here's a practical bonus. If you can add a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon to your coffee at this stage, do it. Ceylon cinnamon, not the cassia variety, contains compounds called terpeoproenidins that partially mimic insulin activity and have been shown in multiple clinical trials to improve fasting glucose. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Diabetes Science and Technology found that daily cinnamon supplementation reduced fasting blood glucose by an average of 10 milligauge in people with type 2 diabetes. That's not trivial, and it costs almost nothing. If you're still here with me and finding this helpful, take a moment to type 1 in the comments. It lets me know you're watching and getting value from this window. Number 2, the pre-meal coffee, 20 to 30 minutes before lunch. This is the window Walter had never heard of. I call it the metabolic prep window, and it's one of the most underutilized strategies for post-meal glucose control. About 20 to 30 minutes before your largest meal of the day, usually lunch for seniors, drink a small cup of plain black coffee. Here's what's happening during that 20-minute window. The chlorogenic acid and trigonelline are being absorbed into your intestinal lining. The alpha-glucosidase enzyme that breaks down carbohydrates is being partially inhibited. Your liver is being primed to manage incoming glucose more efficiently. Then, when you eat your lunch, you're eating into a primed metabolic environment. A clinical study conducted at the University of GE found that consuming coffee 30 minutes before a high carbohydrate meal significantly reduced the 2-hour post-meal glucose area under the curve. A precise measure of how much your blood sugar spikes and for how long compared to drinking no coffee or drinking coffee with the meal. The timing matters. Coffee during the meal or after it doesn't produce the same effect. It's the pre-meal window that allows the protective compounds to position themselves before the glucose arrives. Window number 3, the post-exercise cup. This one requires a little lifestyle context, but I want to share it because it represents a genuinely powerful synergy that most people have never heard of. If you do any form of physical activity, a 20-minute walk, a gentle swim, some light stretching with resistance, there is a specific window immediately after exercise where your muscles are metabolically hungry. During and after exercise, your muscle cells open glucose transporters called GLUT4. These are essentially doors in the cell membrane that allow glucose to enter without requiring insulin. It's one of the most powerful natural mechanisms for clearing glucose from the blood that exists in the human body. Research from the University of Bath found that drinking a moderate amount of caffeinated coffee immediately after exercise enhanced this GLUT activity, essentially extending the muscle's glucose-absorbing window by an additional 30 to 45 minutes. So for seniors who walk in the morning or afternoon, have your post-exercise coffee within 30 minutes of finishing your activity. Drink it plain. Your muscles will use the caffeine to absorb glucose more efficiently, with or without insulin involvement. This combination of movement plus post-exercise coffee is frankly one of the most blood sugar-friendly habits I know of, and it costs nothing. I want to tell you about one more patient before we wrap up, because I think her story is the one that will stick with you. Margaret was 69, a retired librarian. She came to me not because she'd been diagnosed with diabetes. Her numbers were still in the pre-diabetes range, but because she'd watched her husband go through the disease for 12 years, and she was terrified of following the same path. Her current morning routine: wake up, immediately, have 2 cups of instant sweetened coffee, skip breakfast, then have a large bowl of oatmeal with honey around 10 Sata, afternoon coffee with a biscuit, evenings, chamomile tea with sugar. Her fasting glucose was 118. Her A1C was 6.1%. Not diabetic, but clearly trending in that direction. We made 5 changes to her coffee habit. No medication adjustment. No radical diet overhaul. 1. Switched from instant sweetened coffee to fresh ground. Plain. 2. Moved the morning coffee back by 60 minutes, eaten after a boiled egg. 3. Introduced a small pre-launch coffee, 25 minutes before eating. 4. Eliminated the afternoon coffee entirely and replaced it with a short 20-minute walk. 5. Added a post-walk herbal tea in the evening with no sweetener. 12 weeks later, her fasting glucose was 98 normal. Her A1C dropped to 5.7%. She called my office to tell me she felt, in her words, like I got 10 years back. Her energy was better. Her brain fog had cleared. She was sleeping more deeply. Margaret didn't reverse pre-diabetes with medication. She reversed it by aligning her coffee habits with her biology. Before I close, I want to say something clearly because I think it matters. Everything in this video is grounded in published clinical research, but everyone's body is different. If you're currently on diabetes medication, metformin, insulin, GLP-1 agonists, or anything else, please do not change your dosage or stop taking anything based on this video. Share what you've learned here with your physician. Use it as a starting point for a conversation, not as a substitute for medical care. A few other individual considerations. If you experience heart palpitations, trembling, increased anxiety, or disrupted sleep from coffee, you may be a slow caffeine metabolizer. This is determined by a genetic variant in the CYP1A2 enzyme. For slow metabolizers, I recommend capping at 1 cup of regular coffee per day or switching entirely to high-quality decaf, which retains the chlorogenic acid and trigonelline that produce the metabolic benefits. If you have GERD, acid reflux, or a sensitive stomach, drink your coffee after food, not before. The pre-meal window strategy can be modified. Drink your coffee with rather than before your meal if you have stomach sensitivity. If you have kidney disease or have been advised to limit certain compounds, check with your nephrologist about coffee intake before making any changes. The goal is to find your personal version of this framework, not to follow it rigidly regardless of how your body responds. Let me give you the complete picture in one clear summary. What not to do: don't drink coffee the second you wake up. Your cortisol is already peaking. Don't add sugar of any kind. You're cancelling the protective effect of chlorogenic acid. Don't use artificial sweeteners if you can avoid them. Use a small amount of pure stevia if you need sweetness. Don't drink coffee after 2 p.m. if your sleep is compromised. Don't rely on instant or sachet coffee. Choose fresh ground when possible. What to do: wake up, drink water, wait 45 to 90 minutes, eat a small protein source first, eggs, yogurt, cheese, nuts. Then have your plain coffee, optionally with Ceylon cinnamon. About 20 to 30 minutes before your largest meal, drink a small plain coffee. If you exercise, drink a plain coffee within 30 minutes of finishing. Keep it to 2 to 4 cups maximum per day. That's it. No supplements, no special purchases, no dramatic lifestyle overhaul, just coffee used intelligently, timed strategically, kept clean. Your coffee habit already exists. We're not asking you to start something new. We're asking you to shift when and how you do something you're already doing every single day. And if Walter and Margaret's stories tell us anything, it's that those small shifts carry extraordinary power. I'm Dr. Franklin. If this video gave you something valuable, please share it with someone you care about, a spouse, a sibling, a parent, a friend who's been struggling with their blood sugar. You might be handing them a tool that changes something real in their life. And if you want to go deeper, my next video covers the 5 breakfast foods that seniors eat, thinking they're healthy, but that are quietly driving blood sugar spikes more than almost anything else. You won't want to miss it. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you there. Take good care of yourself. You deserve to feel well at every